The Richard Sherman podcast on PFF is brought to you by SuperDraft Fantasy. They created a fantasy game for all of us. To all my PFF community, listen up. Player props are now available, and you can win up to 20 times your entry. Put your parlays together for all kinds of sports. I'm taking it to another level. I want to hook you up when you play. Double your deposit now. Get a $10 bonus when you deposit 10 using the code PFF at registration. Just download SuperDraft and start playing now. They're even hooking you up with a free PFF Elite for a month or half of your annual subscription. Just download the SuperDraft app on the App or Play Store. Use the code PFF when you create an account, deposit $10, and we'll match it with another $10. The offer is only eligible for new accounts. SuperDraft paid fantasy contests are available in 34 U.S. states. Must be 18 or older to play. Contests in most states. Visit superdraft.io for all eligibility restrictions.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. Don't you ever talk about me.
Picked off. It is Richard Sherman. It's picked off by Sherman. Now, buckle up. Here he goes.
And it is intercepted by Richard Sherman. Broken up. Picked off. This game is over.
All right, welcome back. It's post-draft. Time to talk about who did good, who did bad, what smoke screens were up, what teams had a great draft, what teams probably should have picked some other guys. Mitchell, what you think?
Richard, I know you love this conversation, man. You going fifth round out of Stanford. You were carrying a massive tortilla chip sized chip on your shoulder for your entire career. But you said it before this draft even started that you hated the term potential. And it seemed like this draft was all about drafting potential. And we heard the word potential a lot when it came to the QB position. And I think, a lot of people were shocked to see how far the quarterback slid in the draft. Were you at all surprised at seeing how this draft had unfolded at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I was really surprised. And then I was even more surprised by Pittsburgh because they put up a huge smoke screen, made it seem like, hey, Malik Willis is our guy. They're at every pro day, everything. Tomlin's right next to him in every picture. You're like, man, they're talking to him. They're interviewing him. They have him on a visit, I think. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then here comes their pick. And lo and behold, they take Kenny Pickett. And I think now, in hindsight, you see it and you're like, that was a brilliant smokescreen. Made it seem like all your interest is there so that you would know Kenny Pickett's going to be there at 20. Whether another team was interested or not, it's kind of irrelevant. You just made sure that you were doing everything in your power to make sure he was available to you, and teams didn't know you were interested. So that was different. Do I think he's the quarterback of the future? I don't know. It's hard for me to trust a quarterback who wears gloves all the time. It's just different. It's just different. I have a hard time with it, but he slings it. He's effective, and we'll see how effective he is in Pittsburgh. They do a great job developing guys. They haven't had another quarterback under center starting consistently since Ben Roethlisberger. And so that's been, Ben's been there for what, 13 years, 14 years, something like that. And so that'll be interesting. I think the next quarterback not getting picked to the third round and it being Ritter was different as well. I thought he had a lot more upside than people were giving him credit for. I thought he could sneak into the second round, but because he can move, he's hot and cold. He's a streaky thrower. He can get hot. He can get cold. He can go. He threw for a lot of touchdowns, but I just didn't see Malik Willis sliding as far as he did.
What do you think of the fit with Willis and the Titans?
It's perfect because they give him time to develop, give him time to learn how to be a pro, to adjust to the next level. Because, like they said, he's taking 2 steps up, going from not playing Power 5 football to playing in the National Football League and playing at the quarterback spot. I think them having Tannehill and him just being able to learn and mature and take his time is perfect.
Well, Richard, the one takeaway I had from this draft is that when you have a draft with no legitimate quarterbacks, the draft truly is wild. We saw a lot of different players go, higher than a lot expected. And a lot of players go a lot lower than expected. And, one of the bigger takeaways as well was these draft analysts really don't know what the heck they're talking about. You've seen some analysts projecting Malik Willis as high as number 2 overall. You saw a lot of mocks having your old team, the Seattle Seahawks, going after a quarterback. as well as the Carolina Panthers, and all three teams, the Lions, the Carolina Panthers, and the Seahawks didn't even draft a quarterback. So let's focus on your old team, the Seattle Seahawks. I know that you had some comments to make after they drafted Kenneth Walker. Obviously, they drafted Charles Cross as well. It looked like they returned to their old core of ground and pound. What did you think of their draft overall?
I thought it was solid. I thought this was one of their more solid drafts because they didn't try to be, oh man, we're so unique and we do things different. Like sometimes it's not cool to be different. Don't be different. Just do, take the best player available. Don't try to be cute. Don't try to get all creative and say, oh man, we're looking at this guy because nobody was looking at him. Maybe there's a reason. It's a reason you haven't picked up the 5th-year option of your guys for the last few years. And that's the thing that I'm pretty impressed with the Seahawks. They took a really good corner in Kobe Bryant. They took another corner that has a lot of potential. He runs fast. He measured well. You just got to develop those guys, and you got to get back to the basics of developing guys. You get back to the basics of teaching technique. I think that's what's been lost. It's been such a player-driven team for so long that the teaching part of the tech and the scheme got lost. And then you find holes later on. You find things falling apart. You find that the foundation isn't as strong as it used to be because it's not being taught like it used to be because it got taken for granted. And I think this draft gives them a chance to go back to the drawing board, go back to step one, teach the foundation, rebuild the foundation. The foundation of Pete's philosophy is a great run game. Don't turn the ball over, play great defense. That's what it's been. That's how he's won. That's how you don't need the quarterback to throw it 40 times. You don't need the quarterback. You just need the quarterback not to turn it over a lot. And that's what Russell was really good at. He was not going to turn the ball over 2-3 times a game, you hope. And that's what he's going to need out of Geno and
Drew Lock.
I couldn't even get it out. Because I think Geno is going to be the guy. I think they believed in what Geno was able to execute over the few games that he started that Russell missed with the finger. I think they felt good about those games. They felt like they should have won those games. And they're right. It came down to a play here and there. One play changed those games. And unfortunately, it'd be a turnover by Geno, but he was playing really magnificently in those games. He was efficient. He was not turning the ball over until those plays. And I think they feel like they can be effective with the way Penny was running the ball. I think they found their rhythm at the end. Penny was running for 170 and 156 and 180. And those are great games. For Pete's philosophy, you can play great defense when you control the clock. So if the offense has the ball 38 minutes of the game, the other team only has it 20 years old minutes. So it's only so much you can do with that. So I think that's the philosophy. That's what's going to allow them to get through this season. But I still think their plan is to get a quarterback next season. I think whether it's in free agency or the draft.
You've been talking about that for the last couple of months. I mean, ever since Russell got traded, you said that. And it's like they go back to their roots now and they build a three-headed monster. Is Chris Carson going to stick around with this team or what's going on there?
That's the curious part. I don't know. I really don't know. Chris Carson was their lead back, and it was unfortunate after the neck injury because running backs, he had earned a contract. He had earned a nice deal, and he just get injured at the wrong possible time. So I think they're going to go with the guy they just drafted, Kenneth Walker, and Penny. The way Penny ended the season, I can't see them starting him at all. Are playing him very much unless they run into a situation where somebody gets injured. Chris Carson has been fantastic for him, but I don't see them putting Penny on the bench or putting Kenneth Walker Jr. on the bench and playing like that. If they do, that's different.
Yeah, I mean, now you got this offense that is, you can see, an end goal. Like you said, simply add a quarterback next year, and all of a sudden you've got a outstanding group of wide receivers with a solid young core of running backs. And this might be a return to 2013 with the Marshawn days. So Richard, beyond the Seahawks, we saw a really interesting, almost odd rise to the top for Travon Walker. We talked about it on the last podcast. He was coming into the mock draft days, late first round, early second round. He climbs all the way up into consideration to the top 15, climbs up into the top 10, top 5. And then all of a sudden, 2-3 days before the draft, Vegas odds shift and he's the odds on favorite. Someone within the Jaguars organization just the smartest guy out there, or is this one of the dumbest picks you've seen in a while?
I doubt it. Hate to say it, but I doubt it. It's odd. I don't want to say it's the dumbest pick because I think he's going to be a solid player. I think he's going to be a 10-year NFL starter. But usually you're searching for like a true superstar in the number 1 pick, and rarely you ever find one. But I just didn't see that. I thought Aidan Hutchinson was hey, this is a buttoned up, pretty solid. Hey, we know he's going to be a Pro Bowl, a perennial Pro Bowl player. Going to be an effective player. And they have talent on the D line. They have Josh Allen. They have Chason. They have guys on the D line that are effective pass rushers, and they drafted high. It's almost like they're trying to do what San Francisco did, where they're trying to stack the D line with a bunch of top 5 first-round picks and see that in 2-3 years they're going to eventually be a force to be reckoned with, and then they can build their team around that. It's like, okay, I hear you, but then again, you still go Aidan Hutchinson in that situation. Unless you think Travon Walker is going to be freaking Javon Curse or, somebody crazy where it's like, oh, okay, he's a generational talent. I just didn't see the production there. I hear people saying that in preparation for Georgia, everybody was like, hey, man, you got to watch 44. Man, 44 is the issue. But then you don't see the production. So I hear what you're saying. I hear that he's disruptive and people have to account for him. But I don't see 12 sacks. I don't even see double-digit sacks. It's not like, hey, I didn't see 17 sacks. I didn't see 10.
Right. And here he is, number 1 overall. And thank God, though, Richard, I'm thrilled, that they took him, because although I'm a Michigan State alum and I hate the University of Michigan, I was thrilled to see the Lions get the opportunity to draft Aidan Hutchinson. And I think, quite frankly, they walk away the winners of the draft because they were given that opportunity. I think his heart and hustle improves this team dramatically. And, so one team's mistake in my eyes might be another team's great pleasure. So what are your thoughts on Aidan Hutchinson going number 2?
I thought he would go 1 or 2. I thought, for a long time, almost since the season ended, it was Kayvon Thibodeau and Aidan Hutchinson 1-2. Then somehow, Kayvon Thibodeau didn't love football, apparently. Some rumor came out, and that story kind of ran, and all of a sudden he's now dropping to 5, and I think he's going to be a great player and going to be a perennial Pro Bowl player, and that's going to be another one of those mistakes that just ended up sounding stupid after you later on. Just like Joe Burrow, his hands are too small, and then in his second year he takes his team to the Super Bowl, and you're like, wait, what size is his hands again? It does not matter. He's throwing dimes. Like, get away from yourself. And I think that's where the NFL is getting too old, man. It's kind of like America in some respects. Like, you got to get away from that old line of thinking. Like, things are changing. Like, the game is changing. People are changing. Your evaluations need to change. You got to stop thinking, oh, you hitting a stopwatch saying 4-2, 4-3 is going to create a good football player. Like, watch the tape. Understand there are different traits. These guys are different than what you're used to watching. It's not the old rugged, dirty game that you're used to seeing. Like, oh man, this guy isn't working out 15 times a day. He doesn't love football. No, it's not like that. The guy works out. The guy works hard. The guy puts his work in, and he can have interests outside of the game and still be a great football player. He can have interests outside the game and still be great at the game. Understand that. And I think that's hard for people to understand. It's like, you got to put up this facade. I don't do anything but football. What do I do? Sleep football, eat football, drink football. It's like, cool. During the season, I'm locked in. During the off season, I'm not locked in on football. I got other things to do. I got a life. And I think the moment people start to understand that, you'll see different guys get drafted, and you'll see those kind of rhetorics start to disappear.
Or should you talk about times changing, and certainly times are changing with, athletes doing stuff well beyond football, but also things are changing with, I guess, this Jamar Chase effect is now hit the NFL by storm. We've seen wide receivers get paid extreme amount of money this offseason, starting with Christian Kirk, an eye-opening, almost $20 million a year. And then that rolls over into the draft. We see guys go off the board left and right. It was as soon as, Drake London went at 8, it was like the snowball started to fall. It was, then Garrett Wilson, then Chris Olave, then the Lions trade up and get Jamison Williams. And all of a sudden, Jahan Dotson, who wasn't projected to go, late first, early second, gets selected middle of the first round. I guess what are your thoughts on this group of rookie receivers? Who do you think is the best fit amongst them?
That's tough. I like Drake London, and I like where he went, but I think Chris Olave is probably going to get the best fit because he's not going to have to come in and be at number one. Mike Thomas is coming back. He's going to get a chance to just be a number two, get in where he fits in. And they do a great job drawing it up in New Orleans. I think Garrett Wilson, going to the Jets and them just being really young and really talented and them having no real stress of expectations. There's no expectations for the Jets right now. Nobody's expecting them to go make the playoffs or no pressure to win the division. So if they do those things and they have success and they surprise people, then it's just like, oh, wow, look, these guys are doing great. And if he doesn't and he just has, 60 catches and has a pretty good rookie year, then that's great as well. So I think that he's in a good situation just because he doesn't have the expectations. We'll see what Zach Wilson can do with more weapons. They did a good job surrounding him with weapons and also finding some help for the defense. And Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner, I think they found some good pieces. And I think DJ Reed, who they picked up in free agency, is another good pickup. And I think they're putting themselves in position to be really competitive in the future. But you're right, man. This receiver market. Just think about the AJ Brown trade. Everybody's looking for the big top flight receiver, and they're getting $25 million a year. And what's crazy is Philly already had a nice set of young, speedy receivers,
right.
And so this only helps them. But I just didn't like it as a move for Tennessee. I don't think you replace his production with a rookie. I think you can try to find a like body and a like-minded and like, but you're not going to find what he has brought, what you actually found. It's potential versus production.
Sure.
Like, hey, we think this guy can be it, but this guy was it.
Yeah,
That's
Treylon Burks is going to be the new AJ Brown in that scheme. But, a team like the Titans is in between a rock and a hard place. Here it is. AJ Brown goes out and signs a 4-year, $100 million deal with 57 guaranteed, right? And he's a guy that's battled injuries. Granted, he's played through a lot of injuries and he's a heck of a football player, but it's, do you as an organization make that financial commitment at the wide receiver position when this guy has had a history of injuries? And do you capitalize on and getting that draft equity instead of that? And so we see the big time trade with the Tennessee Titans, with him going to Philly. And obviously, like you said, Philly kind of piecemealing this great wide receiver core together now. And then we look at your old team, the 49ers, like you said on our last podcast, they weren't going to give up Debo unless somebody gave them a king's ransom. And from the reports, the offers were very insignificant. Richard, it's an interesting time we're in with the wide receiver position. And then you look at a guy like Hollywood Brown, who ends up going to the Cardinals for a first-round pick. Do you think the Cardinals had any inkling that this DeAndre Hopkins situation was about to develop and made that move because of it? Or do you think this was just a sideline move and they're shocked by this DeAndre Hopkins news today?
I don't think they're shocked by it. They're definitely not shocked by it. I mean, you find out on those suspensions usually months in advance. So I'm sure the test was in November. So I'm sure they knew by January, February at the latest. But I don't think the Hollywood Brown move is a move in response to that at all. I think he was a poor fit in Baltimore because of what they wanted to do, and also he was dropping the ball. I think people were blaming everybody but him. It's like, I hear you. He's a good receiver and he's fast and he can move and he's dynamic, but he also had huge drops. He drops a ton of touchdowns, like not drops a ton of first downs, drops bombs. Right. He's wide open and he's earned a touchdown and drops it. So I think it's Cliff Kingsbury is going to use him similar to how he was used in Oklahoma. Obviously, Kyler played with him at Oklahoma, so I think there was some familiarity there. They didn't have to give up a king's ransom to get him. So it was just they wanted more speed, and they had obviously lost Christian Kirk. So I think it's more of a response to them losing Christian Kirk than it is losing DeAndre Hopkins for 6 games.
The Richard Sherman podcast on PFF is brought to you by SuperDraft Fantasy. They created a fantasy game for all of us. To all my PFF community, listen up. Player props are now available, and you can win up to 20 times your entry. Put your parlays together for all kinds of sports. I'm taking it to another level. I want to hook you up when you play. Double your deposit now. Get a $10 bonus when you deposit 10 using the code PFF at registration. Just download SuperDraft and start playing now. They're even hooking you up with a free PFF Elite for a month or half of your annual subscription. Just download the SuperDraft app on the App or Play Store. Use the code PFF when you create an account, deposit $10, and we'll match it with another $10. The offer is only eligible for new accounts. SuperDraft paid fantasy contests are available in 34 U.S. states. Must be 18 or older to play. Contests in most states. Visit superdraft.io for all eligibility restrictions.
Welcome back. You know what time it is. It's the SuperDraft Super 15 contest, well, formerly known as, it's the over-under. This week we got Jason Tatum, John Morant, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Celtics, Jason Tatum over or under 28.5 versus the Bucks. I have him under. The Bucks are playing outstanding basketball, held him under 100 as a team the last time they played. I think they only had 89 points, so I don't see him getting a third of their points. I got him under. John Morant, 27.5 versus the Warriors. They lost the game in game one that they should have won at home with Draymond hurt. I expect John Morant to come out aggressive as he did last time, being over 27.5. Giannis Antetokounmpo over 30.5 versus the Bucks. I see him over that. He's been aggressive. They cannot stop him. They can only hope to contain him. And when they do, he finds the open man. I have him over 30.5. Mitchell, what you got?
Well, for the sake of competition, Richard, I'm just going to go the reverse of everything that you picked. But I'm with you, man. This Jason Tatum matchup with the Bucks, I mean, the whole matchup in general, Celtics-Bucks matchup is just a tough one. The Bucks are a juggernaut. They're playing without Chris Middleton, one of their best players, and they're still winning with ease. The Celtics are in a must-win situation right now at home. If they go down 0-2 to the Bucks, pencil this series over. Jason Tatum's going to bring his A game. Let's pencil him with over 28.5 points. In terms of John Morant, I mean, holy cow, he's taking the league by storm over these last two games. I'm sure the New Orleans Pelicans are regretting that Zion Williamson choice now. But the one thing that concerns me about Ja is just the fact that he's almost too aggressive and careless with his body. So I don't know, man. I think the Grizzlies win. I think his supporting cast steps up, but I think Ja goes under. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo, I mean, what can you say about this guy? Most physically dominating player in the NBA since Shaq. But hey, here we go. I got to go the adverse of you, Rich. I'm going to go under for Giannis this week, and I'm going to take home the dub. That is my last prediction. I am going to win this week. Mark that down.
It's kind of like the Jaguars picking Travon Walker with the first pick. It's a reach to think you're going to win this one, but whatever, Mitchell. I'm here for it. Another win. You guys make your picks. Download the SuperDraft app. Use the promo code PFF for the first $5 game free. No strings attached, no credit card required. Get in there, get right. Let me know how it goes. Tweets, Instagram message, anything. Let me know how you go.
Now let's transition to the other side of the ball, defending these wide receivers. I know that you really, really liked Ahmad Sauce Gardner. How shocked were you to see the Texans go a different direction with Derek Stingley? And do you think they're going to regret that decision?
I was really shocked. And I expressed that on the draft, during the draft. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was different because he more, not based off the talent, just more off him coming off the injury. Like you don't hear about people coming off an injury that ended their season very often and them still going top 5. That usually doesn't happen, but that just shows you the amount of love and belief that the Texans had in him. And so that was a little bit surprising for me that the Texans really went out on a limb and didn't even try to trade back or maybe try to trade to 5 and know that he'd still be there and could potentially get him. I thought that was different, but I also liked the fit of him with the Texans and Sauce with the Jets. Scheme fit and what Sauce did in college and what Stingley did in college fits with the two programs that they're going with, the two organizations they're going to. He's going to play some man-to-man. Lovie Smith is going to play some man, some quarters, some two-man. That's in Stingley's wheelhouse. I think Sauce is going to play some 3, some quarters, some 6. some two-man, some man-to-man, and he'll be able to do all those things, and he'll be able to learn the technique, and he'll be able to really showcase what he can do.
Well, Robert Saleh's had some experience with a big corner in his day, so we'll see what he can do with Sauce now. Richard, beyond Sauce and Stingley, who else do you like at the quarterback position in terms of fit?
I liked Kobe Bryant with the Seahawks. I really liked that pick. I thought he would go sooner. I think to win a Thorpe and to go in the 4th round is just wild. I'm like sometimes some of these assessments are like, bro, what could the kid have done? Maybe run a little faster, but the kid wins the Thorpe and goes in the 4th round. I'm sure he's incredibly disappointed in that, but I think the Seahawks got a steal. I think he'll be a long-time starter for them. He'll take over their corner spot. That's pretty much vacant. They didn't re-sign DJ Reed. Trey Brown is injured. Sidney Jones left. So they have a huge hole there, and you were wondering how they would fill it. And they're obviously looking to fill it with rookies. Are they going to look to find some late free agents? But I really like that pick.
Now, Richard, speaking of steals, we saw some other big names tumble down the draft board, starting with Kyle Hamilton. A lot of people penciled him into, in that top 8 range, and he goes all the way down to 15. And it's like the rich get richer. Here's a Baltimore Ravens team that's known for having these heavy hitting safeties. And the guy they compare to Ed Reed ends up going to the Ravens and Kyle Hamilton. What do you think of him as a player, and how do you think that fit works out for him?
I think sometimes things that seem bad in the moment are actually a blessing in disguise. And I think he'll feel that way later on in his career, because he could have went to a worse team. He could have went to a worse organization. He could have went higher into a worse place and a worse fit. And I think he went to a place where they will develop him properly. He will play fantastic defense. He's going to play with a fantastic secondary and Marlon Humphreys. And shoot, they have a couple of them now. If Marcus comes back healthy, you'll have 2 really good corners on the outside. You'll have a good D-line in front of you, get pressure, and you'll have a great organization. That's the important thing. You have a great organization, an organization that's tried and true. They'll be consistent. Offensively, you have a scheme that is understand. You have a quarterback who's won the MVP award. So I think he should be really happy with the spot that he landed in, because he's going to do great. They have a great history, and they're going to play some great defense, man. I'm happy for him.
And then also on the defensive side of the ball, we saw Nakobe Dean, his just literally tumble down draft boards in front of your eyes. What started again is it's a mid-first round pick. You saw him and Devin Lloyd being talked about, who's the first linebacker off the board. And then all of a sudden you're seeing guys from Wyoming getting drafted above him and Montana State. And it's like, I know there's injury history, and I know that there are injury concerns that popped up late. And I know he ran a little slow at the combine, but do you agree with his draft position, or do you think he should have gone higher?
No, I think he should have went higher. But what are you going to do? I think the undersized linebacker is concerning for people. Now, I think that Reuben Foster is the guy that I think people kind of look to it, probably that's similar built. Obviously not the rest of the stuff, but that's really aggressive, really fast, plays the game like it's supposed to be played, and he got taken in the first round, and it didn't work out. So he had some injury history, some things that people didn't know about, and that's what teams are concerned about now, man. It's teams are concerned that that's what's going on, and he's hiding something, or maybe they know more, maybe they've seen the pictures, and their doctor's seen the pictures, and it's a legitimate concern. But I'm disappointed for the kid, because he's one of the best players in the draft, but he's still getting a shot. He'll get a shot, and he'll make his money in the long run if he is who he thinks he is.
And he's going to have that Richard Sherman chip on his shoulder too. Right. So, Rich, at drafts concluded, free agency is well started. Which team do you think helped themselves the most this offseason, and is geared to compete after the draft's over?
The same teams. It hasn't changed the power rankings that greatly. I think the top of your list are still the same teams that have been at the top of your list. The Rams will be there. Kansas City will be there. You look at Buffalo. Buffalo got better with Von Miller, and obviously they drafted some kids, but that's not going to move the needle for teams like that. Teams at the top are going to be at the top. Like, it may move the needle for teams at between 20 and 32. You may see a little bit of variance there, but the teams at the top are pretty much set in stone, regardless of how the draft went, because of how their teams are built and how they did free agency and things like that. Known veterans, because the rookies are still unknowns. You could say, hey, they drafted this guy who should be really good, but that doesn't count the same as these guys have guys who are really good. That's a much different conversation. So I expect Buffalo, Green Bay, even without Devontae, a dark horse top 10 being the Raiders now with the talent they picked up and Chandler Jones and Tay Adams. I think the Chargers have a chance to sneak in there late with the talent they have. They can execute and stop the run for change. They could be really good. So we'll see. I think the top 10 is still the same way it has been, but we'll see what happens come September.
Well, Richard, this concludes our discussion on the NFL draft. Now we get to focus a little bit more on the NBA side of things. I got to ask, and this is going to be just off NFL topic. What do you think of Draymond Green's suspension the other night?
I mean, I hate it. I hate it for basketball. I hate it for sports. I hate it for refs, because the refs are going to get heavily scrutinized, deservingly, because that was a mistake. And I hate it for the NBA, because you guys could have called down and made that call, made sure it was the right call. I think it was piss poor. It's piss poor on every level. If this is the playoffs, if this is the regular season, you say, oh, Draymond being Draymond. Oh, look at him, man. That was a bit too much. This is the playoffs. Obviously, it's not intentional. Obviously, if he would have wanted to bring the guy down and hurt him, he could have brought him down and hurt him. And you suspend him for that. But you give him a flagrant one and you let him keep playing. If he gets another one, he gets kicked out of the game. But for them to kick him out of that situation was just bad for everybody involved. And I think it sets a bad precedent, because now everything you see going forward that's even remotely close to that play, you look for it and you say, hey, why did Draymond would have got kicked out for that? Oh, they would have kicked Draymond out for that. Oh, he tripped and failed. Draymond would have got kicked out for that. And it's poor. It's a hard job. It's a hard game, but that one just wasn't very good at all.
Which team do you think is gonna take home the title this year?
I think Golden State has a chance, but I think Milwaukee is going to be in the finals again.
Yeah, Milwaukee's very hot. So, Richard, we're going to be bringing on some draft guests so you can interview them again later on this week. But this concludes today's podcast on the NFL draft. I'll let you sign us off.
All right, we're out. Thank you guys for joining us again. It was a beautiful episode. We'll see you with more guests for the following episodes. Me and Mitch just had to catch up again. You know how that goes. See you guys next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Beat the traffic.